All right, hello sixth grade. Welcome to day 2 of our reviewing. Day 2 of 3, so we've just got one more left. Today we're going to be reviewing nonfiction and its purposes and its types. So remember, in order to do this review, I would recommend that you find the assignment called Study Guide in Google Classroom, open up the Google Doc attached to it called 6th Grade Reading Study Guide, and then as we go, type in your answers to the study guide's questions. Make sure you're looking for this book icon in the PowerPoint, because information by that icon is what goes into your study guide. And I'll make sure to remind you guys as well as we go through, but sometimes I have to admit I forget, so keep your eyes peeled for this, all right? In case you need a refresher, let's go over to the 6th grade reading classroom, find this assignment study guide, and then your screen will probably look something like this, and you can open up the 6th reading study guide. Now, I have my own copy up here so that whatever I type doesn't show up on yours, so that's what I'll be using today. So let's get back into what we're doing today. All right, nonfiction purposes. So let's first talk about nonfiction, the word. Nonfiction has non as a prefix and fiction as a root word. Non means not. Fiction is a made-up story. It refers to made-up stories. So nonfiction, those together, means that nonfiction means not made-up stories. So, in other words, true stories. So on your study guide, I'd like you to write, nonfiction is writing that is about true information. And I'll do that right now. So I'll pause, you will pause your video. You'll go over to your opened up document. Let me show you a quick trick. Maybe you know this already, but instead of doing a bunch of spaces to get underneath the one, what you can do is press tab twice and you'll get underneath there. I think I'm going to do some blue text today, and let's see, what do I need to write again? Nonfiction is writing that is about true information. That is about true information. And there we go. So this is the type of stuff that you guys are going to do as we go through this review. All right, let's get back into the lesson. Okay. So there are three types of three purposes of nonfiction. There's informing. Nonfiction authors will write their essay, their speech, their autobiography in order to inform people sometimes. Or maybe they'll write it to describe something. Or they could be writing in order to persuade or convince their reader. So go ahead and write each of these under number 2 in our study guide. Inform, describe, and persuade. Now, I gotta be honest with you. When we really look at these, it turns out that inform and describe are so similar, we kind of give them their own little category. So it's more like inform/describe, because these two mean very much the same thing. Informing someone and describing something to someone is very, very similar. And so that's why we keep these together. Persuading is very different from these two, and so it's its own purpose. All right, let's take a look at some practice. So what I'd like you guys to do is read this paragraph and tell me if the author who wrote this is trying to inform/describe or if they're trying to persuade. As you can see, this is on our study guide. I'm going to read this aloud. If you want to read it on your own, then you may. Soccer is not as fun as volleyball. In soccer, the players have to run around the field for the entire game, which wears them out. In volleyball, the players can save their energy by staying in the same area for longer. In soccer, it may take a long time for the ball to switch sides. In volleyball, the ball is always going back and forth between teams, which makes the game more exciting. So tell me, what is the main purpose in this paragraph? Is it to persuade, or is it to inform/describe the reader? To the reader. Go ahead and write your answer in our study guide. All right, let's move on. Nonfiction types. So, there are 3 main types of nonfiction. An author has a purpose. They have a reason for writing, but the sort of way in which they write is referred to as the nonfiction type. Okay, we've got informative nonfiction, which, you guessed it, gives information on a topic. So this has a book next to it. Go ahead and answer the question in our study guide about what informative nonfiction is. It gives information on the topic. Okay, then we've got narrative nonfiction. As you may notice, narrative sounds like narrate or narrator, and those words both mean or have to do with telling a story. So narrative nonfiction tells a true story. And it doesn't do so with lots of fancy language and figurative language. It just tells it like it is. Go ahead and write this one down as well. Now, literary nonfiction. That's what we've been reading mostly in class. Literary nonfiction does use language creatively. It uses figurative language, poetic language. It reads almost like it's a made-up story with characters that interact with each other and suspense and drama and all of that stuff. But it is a true story. So remember, narrative nonfiction, not all the bells and whistles. Literary nonfiction, yes, all the bells and whistles. But go ahead and just write this part for your review guide, or study guide. Okay, another way to remember this is informative nonfiction. An example of that would be like your textbook or your teacher. When they are giving you information on the lesson, they're using informative nonfiction. Narrative nonfiction is something you might see in someone writing about their life. Maybe they're writing a news article about something that happened to them, or just a short story about, something important in their life. Literary nonfiction, very similar to narrative. It's a story about someone's life, but once again, it's very poetic, very fancy. Sounds almost like a fiction story. All right, let's move on. What I'd like you to do to practice this is write 2 sentences of informative nonfiction in which you explain something you're interested in and how it works. So, if I were to write this, I would probably write about jellyfish, the best animal, or I'd write about, like Star Wars or Harry Potter, something I'm interested in. Go ahead and just tell me something that you like, and make sure you have 2 good sentences. Not little dinky sentences, but something that has some really good substance. And write that on your study guide so that you can use it for your quiz. All right, that's all we've got for today. These reviews are going to be pretty short, but we're going to fill out that review guide, which has quite a bit of information over these 3 days with these short lessons. So good work today. Thanks for joining me, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.